What are the two most important things a father can give his children? I'll share them on this segment of the Gig Geezer. It is Friday, June 17, 2022. And if this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. And if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming back. I am going to get into talking about Father's Day and just what are my true thoughts and sentiments about fathers and Father's Day. But I also want to put out there a couple of things real quickly. Now, as I'm starting this, I accepted a catering order from Zoe showing an offer of $17.25, and it required me to show a picture of my catering bag. While waiting for the Zoe order, I happened to catch an Instacart from the Fresh Market, which is literally across the street from Zoe. It's showing 10 items for $17.69, but I doubted that's going to pay because I had to refund 3 items. No blueberry, no Brussels sprout type salad from the deli section, and then there were no, there was a different type topped cashew peanuts. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about before I get into the main topic is I just happened to read an email this morning from DoorDash where they are no longer requiring drivers to wear masks, but they do advise drivers to still be mindful of any local regulations regarding wearing masks and social responsibility during still the COVID crisis. Now, all that to say, again, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Now, Father's Day. Number one, shout out to all the fathers, especially those who are out here doing their gig hustle and whose motivation is their kids and their kids in their life. Now, I have made mention about my daughter multiple times in multiple segments of the Gig Geezer, and it just so happened as I am doing this section of the Gig Geezer, my daughter, who, by the way, again, has completed her first year working towards her doctorate degree. In fact, that degree is in educational leadership. Her goal as it is now is to do consultant work, basically to be paid for what she knows. Now, she still is open to the idea of teaching at the college and university level as well. Those thoughts have evolved from where she got her master's in student affairs, which is like the springboard into academic administration at the college and university level. She's not thinking that she wants to do that. I mean, you go through all that time in school, but you don't really get paid. And so she wants to get paid. Now, moving on. I was a sports reporter when my daughter was born, and this is exactly what happened. The weekend she was born, which was a Saturday, her mother and I discussed whether I went to her actually, because what it was, her mother had yet to give birth. She was at term, but there was talk if she did not have a child by Tuesday, if she did not go into labor by Tuesday, they were going to induce labor and go by C-section. Well, I told her that I did not have to go cover Clemson versus Maryland up at the old Cole Field House that weekend. In fact, I left on her. So what ended up happening, she told me, go ahead on. I'll be all right. I got somebody who can take me to the hospital if necessary. So I left that Friday. The game was on a Saturday. I checked on her Saturday morning. Her friend tells me that her water broke. I get ready to go to Cole Fieldhouse, and I check in on her once I'm in the press room, and she tells me that she just had our daughter about 45 minutes just before me calling. So the next day, Sunday, I fly back from Baltimore, Washington to Greenville Spartanburg Airport, and from there I drive straight to the hospital, which was named at the time Baptist Hospital. And by the way, in a recent Gig Geezer segment, I showed y'all where I have one of my legitimate tax write-offs, which is my office as an insurance agent, and that office is literally around the corner from the hospital where my daughter was born. Now, that leads up to this thing that I'm known for, at least between my daughter and her mother. When I got up to the maternity ward where her mother was, I didn't see her. And the first thing comes out of my mouth, "Where's my daughter?" And so they always give me grief about that. "Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter?" Well, I was dead serious. Where's my daughter? Because they told me they had just taken her back to the child. They had just taken her out the room, and so they were quick to bring her back. And as I've often told my daughter, when the moment I said, "Where's my daughter?" I've been on the clock ever since. Now she'll be 25 in January next year, so I've been on the clock for 25 years and counting. Now, fathers, there's something that I've shared many years now on Father's Day. There's two things I believe in my experience that I think a father can give their child other than their name. The first one is time. The second one is wisdom. Why do I say time and wisdom? I believe that a child will always remember the time that you spend with their parents, particularly in this case, their father. They will remember the time that you spent with their parent. And in my case, I've been there for everything. I want to say at least 95% of the major events in my daughter's life, I've been there. I've been there for the shots. I've been there for the doctor's visits. I've been there for when she had to go to doctor's care. I've been there for practice, soccer practice, cheerleader practice, Girl Scout meeting, the only father there at the Girl Scout meeting. What else? Teaching her how to ride a bike, teaching her how to drive, going with her on her driving test. Like I said, the academic preparation, we used to go at it all the time about that. In fact, I helped her academically up through undergrad, and that and once she got to the master's level, that's basically when I became I was just along for the ride. I was just a spectator. I'm just a fan now. In fact, I told her that the last time we spoke. I'm just a fan now. I'm your biggest fan. And I say that really as a proud parent, because at the master's level, she had a 4.0. I mean, I never had a 4.0, even though I was a pretty good student. I never had a 4.0 in any semester, and she's done that in elementary school. She did that in high school. She's done that in college, and now working towards her master's. Anyway, but I realized about the time element actually through my time in Boy Scouts. And my scoutmaster, a guy named Whitney Collins. Mr. Collins was not the most talented person, but there was one thing when I thought back that Mr. Collins gave a lot of, and that was time. He sacrificed his weekends, he sacrificed vacation time for us hard-headed wannabe thugs. Yeah. And when I made my way up through scouting, in which I ended up as an Eagle Scout, I remember Mr. Collins saying in my Eagle Scout ceremony that every Scoutmaster wants to say that they had an Eagle Scout, and today I can say that. Well, at the time I was not the most appreciative 17-year-old. I was not my head was not in the right place, and so I was not. So it took me a good 10 years before somewhere where I had the mindset. But I had an opportunity 10 years later to go back to Mr. Collins and thank him for the time that he spent with us. And I really believe, as a father, it's so important. It is really important. You're out here doing a hustle, yes, and it may take up time of day, but make time for your kids, man. Guys, make time for your kids. Mothers talk about it all the time. They're with them all the time, and then sometimes they get on fathers for not spending time. But that's one thing my daughter's mother could never say about me. I was always there. I mean, I think back to when I had a stint at UPS. I literally quit working at UPS, which is a pretty cool opportunity at the time. I quit working at UPS. I used to work from 11 at night until like as late as 4 in the morning. Working tugs, hauling these cans, what they call cans, these metal containers that fit within the planes, from the planes to the sorting center and back out to the planes. And also when I worked in the planes, setting the cans inside of the planes. I quit because my daughter needed me to be home to work with her when she was in 3rd grade with her homework. She was struggling in a couple subjects. She was upset, crying, and I'm like, you know what? This money ain't worth it. Because when she needed me for help with her homework, I was asleep. And so I quit working at UPS to be available for her. It's summertime. When school was out, I was Mr. Mom. That was when I worked with her with the reading and writing and the arithmetic. Yeah. Or I would take her with me on appointments as an insurance agent. And so certain customers got to know my daughter as well. Again, that's invaluable. When I would be working up under the hood, she would be right there with me. When I was out in the backyard, working on the yard, she'd be out there with me. So I think you get where I'm going with that now. The next thing is wisdom. Fathers, think about the things that you say to your kids. Think about the things you say around them. Think about the things that will shape that child's future. I think one of the best compliments is when over time your child recalls some of the things that you've shared with them. And even more so, they share those things among people that they know. One of the things that my daughter has shared in her time since as she's worked towards her master's and towards her doctorate is, I remember my daughter talked about in high school how it's just, I'm just a couple points away, blah blah blah. I said, daughter, the difference between an A and B is 1 point. And she now uses that with some people that she advises, some of the students that she's advised over the years. The difference between an A and a B is 1 point because of, you can try to take off on a question or on a section of a test, and at the end of the semester, because you fell short, because of that effort that you put in, it can make you actually 1 point short of a higher grade. But it's all because of the effort that you put in along the way. But that 1 point could be that much of a difference. I mean, that 1 point could be that much of a difference with a scholarship or some type of opportunity in life. That 1 point, just like in bowling, 1 pin could be the difference between you cashing and not cashing. So you should always be on guard. You should always put forth your best effort in everything that you do. You should always go at it as if this may be your last opportunity. Don't waste the opportunities that you have, man. That's what I'm getting at. Now, my daughter may have a different version of that, but that's kind of what I was getting at with her. And so, again, she's gone back and shared that with kids that she's advised. and among others in regular discussion with her doctoral studies. Okay, I'm about 3 minutes removed from having dropped off that Zoe order, and the order paid $51.48. A pleasant surprise because of where the order was dropped off to. It was dropped off to a place involving kids, but apparently it was for the adults. And even then, because it involves kids, it's just been my experience, it does not always pay as well as you would think. But it's a nice bump to the day. And so I am getting back to the Father's Day conversation. You know what? As a parent, kids are a reflection of you. And you're a reflection of them. And what I mean by that, I'll put it like this. My mother, some would say my mother was a taskmaster. Some would say my mother was crazy. Some would say that my mother should have been locked up the way she raised me. And you know what? In this day and era, she probably would be. But you know what? My mother would have said, if I didn't do it, somebody else would. So I would rather do it, and I would gladly spend time in jail doing what I did than for somebody else to do some of the things that she did to me. Now, you hear me talking mother, you have not heard me mention father, because while yes, my father is still alive, and my father has a relationship with my daughter, I don't have one with him. He does not have one with neither of his kids. And that means my sister, who's the sister that's closest to me in age. I have two sisters. One is 9 years younger. The other is 2 years younger. And that's the one that, well, anyway, you get where I'm going with that. So that sister, one who's 2 years younger than me, he has no relationship with. And I've not spoken to him in 10 years. And another 10 years would be too soon. And that's a sad testimony. That is a sad testimony. Some would say for me, and some would say for him. And so you would say that some of the things that I learned was by watching other people. Some would say that it's by trial and error. But I go back to my initial point about when I said, where's my daughter? I've been on the clock ever since. You have to want to be a good parent. You know what? Your parents can do certain things. Your parents can invest all the time in the world in that child, but it's up to the child to have to get to a point where they buy into things for themselves. The child has to have to begin to set expectations for themselves. If the child doesn't begin setting expectations for himself or herself, then yes, many of the things that the parent teaches the child will go in vain. And then it may be a poor reflection on the parent. And so sometimes I used to I've told my daughter that. I said, daughter, you know, your mother and I have invested a lot in you. But at the same time, and we've set certain expectations for you, but at some point you've got to set those expectations for yourself. And so that's another thing that I think as parents, as a father, you have to impress upon your child, is getting that child to the point where that child sets expectations for himself and herself. Because if he or she doesn't do that, he or she is not going to have the drive or the initiative to make something out of themselves in life. It used to be that, you could presume that some kids would learn from the bad example and try to aspire for something good. But if you've never heard anything, you've never was exposed to anything, how can you aspire to do anything? So, in this day and age, you've got to set them in the right direction. You've got to set them in the right direction with the things that you do and say around them. Another thing is that you may have had failings in life. Admit your failings to your child. That's something that I've had, because I did so many things, I guess so many right things at one point in my daughter's life. She could not have fathomed me to have do wrong. But as a father, admit your failings. Don't sugarcoat things, man. Admit your failings, but also admit when you're wrong to your child. Be willing to apologize to your child. At the same time, always provide encouragement to your child. You know, mothers nurture, but fathers can nurture in their own way. Fathers just have a little harder way of doing it. So that's why I say encouragement, admitting when you're wrong, apologizing. Yeah, do those things. Do those things. Now, I think about my uncle. My uncle, my mother's brother, that's how my parents met. The story goes that my uncle was very good friends with my father, a first cousin of my father's. And my mother and uncle, they were like this. They were like ooey and dooey. And so my parents knew each other since childhood. But what I'm getting at, my uncle was often the male example that I heard coming along. My uncle, I mean, the TV characters or movie characters portrayed by John Wayne and Clint Eastwood ain't got nothing on my uncle, man. I mean, this dude was a college scholarship athlete who finished from Oklahoma State when you didn't see black people at Oklahoma State back in the late 1950s and early 1960s. He's a retired officer, a retired colonel. He's got a doctorate degree. He was a champion weightlifter. This is the same guy who I've described to so many people. I saw him in his mid-40s bench press 450 pounds with metal weights. In his mid-40s, okay? People half his age couldn't keep up with him. And he's still going on now. He's 80 years old? He'll be 81 next month. In fact, in a few weeks. What I'm getting at is, I think back to when I was at Texas Southern. In fact, he's the reason why I went to Texas Southern. But I think back to him hustling the way he did. I mean, this dude did a little bit of everything. He was working towards his doctorate degree. He worked with, I can't even tell you all the things he did, but he had checks coming in from everywhere because he had 3 daughters and a stepson. And when he's called me, I said, man, I'm doing no more than what you did. I mean, I'm on the move. I'm out here trying to make some money. That's right, man. That's what you got to do. I'm not saying, you know what? My uncle is by no means a perfect person. But what I think of were the examples of accomplishment. And those are some of the things that drove me to accomplish things that I've done in my life. And you know what, fathers? If you aspire excellence from yourself and your children see that you aspire for excellence for yourself and in them, there's a good chance that they will aspire for excellence for themselves. And so, fathers, you may not get anything for Father's Day from your kids, but you know what? That's typically a Father's Day. You know, fathers get the rinkiest, dinkiest gifts. The kids everyone goes out of their way for the mother, but for the fathers, it's just, you know what? I've always been, look, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. But fathers, if you have a relationship with your kids, do everything to maintain that relationship with your kids. If you have kids that are going to spend time with you, cherish all that, because that's the ultimate thing. You know what I said? Investing time and wisdom. You can't make up for that time. You can't buy back that time. You mess up as they're coming along, you're not going to have that opportunity with them. You can't go back and try to treat them as if they're 5 or 6 years old when they're 25. You know, my daughter, who's going on to do certain things, I know I spoke with my dentist, and yeah, we talk about dentists, but my dentist was telling me, because I've been a patient of his for the last 16 years, and so his oldest is now going off to college, and so it's going to be a very proud and somewhat emotional time for him. She's going off to this she's going to this art-based college in Savannah, Georgia. I forget the name of the place, but I'm familiar with it, and what I may do is, here's the name of the place on the graphic, but he's already saying, man, I don't know how I'm going to handle when she goes off. Well, for me, and I know that he has spent time. I would venture to think that he spent a lot of time with his daughters, with that daughter. But maybe for me, things like that did not have the same impact, because my daughter went to Clemson, which is 2.5 hours away from Columbia. But even then, I helped move all her stuff out to Clemson. I moved all her stuff to Clemson. Yeah, assembled beds, assembled furniture, moved things, and I'm talking about when she went to Clemson, that was 2019, and that was with with a new hip, in fact. But back to my dentist. I think because for me, I've been there for everything. I just looked at when she went off to Clemson, and as she's gone on to do things now where she's living her best life, I've looked at it as a normal progression, and not so much as this great loss in my life, or this great monumental moment that emotionally I can't handle. I was always taught that if you do your best, then you have no reason to feel remorse or all those things that go with losing. When you do your best, they say, at least I was taught, when you do your best, you can always stand tall, look straight ahead, and keep on moving. And that's what I'm getting at for you fathers. Do your best. Do your best, and you won't have regrets. And you know what? I'll just at this point show my statistics for the rest of the first half hustle. I'll also show my statistics for the rest of today's hustle. But if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer, or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your hustle and may your grind continue.